Here we have one of the earliest scenes on Main Street. We're looking west from the corner of Mill Street. You are looking at two of the first Ford Model Ts in Lower Lake around 1910. On the left, you will see the Eureka Hotel, and on the right, the Oddfellows Hall. Here it's a scene showing hauling goods to market. Large wheels were necessary to travel on the rough roads and up the steep hills. This photo was taken after 1906, and the Lower Lake Schoolhouse without its bell tower is visible in the distance. Here we are looking west from the corner of Lake and Main Streets. On the left is the Purity Market. The automobiles appear to be from the 30s. Looking east this time, we have another view of the corner of Lake and Main Streets in the 40s. On the left are the Lake Theater and the Big Oak Cafe. Again on Main Street, we have Lake County's third branch of Bank of America, which was granted its Lower Lake charter in 1946. Native Sons of the Golden West Parade on Main Street. This very early photo shows the original post office on the north side of Main Street. Parades have always been popular in Lower Lake. This photo shows a group walking down Main Street. The Lower Lake Bakery sold ice cream, candy, soft drinks, as well as cigars and tobacco. This photo came from the Wiper family collection. This photo was taken at the Comittee sawmill at Atkins Spring on Perini Hill in 1902. Included in the picture are George Comittee and his wife, Arthur Comittee, and Mrs. Bassett. Here we have a hay baling crew in 1922, and you can see that even children were expected to help. These hunters are making deer jerky. They took time to ham it up for the camera. The Lower Lake telephone switchboard around 1935. In the back is Mary Jean Sullivan, and seated in the foreground is Georgina Comittee.
Who's your turtle dove? Who's your little
At the Comittee sawmill, workers pose for a picture. The Lower Lake Stone Jail, the smallest jail in the West, was built in 1875 by John and Theodore Comittee. When the job was finished, the brothers took to celebrating a bit too much and became the first occupants for disturbing the peace. However, they escaped immediately by lifting off the roof that they had not yet bolted down. This is the Getz Brothers store on Main Street. In 1855, Joseph Getz began a mercantile business in Lower Lake and was joined by his brothers in 1864. The Getz family store grew to become one of the largest dry goods mercantile corporations in America by the 1920s. Pictured are Joseph and Solomon Getz inside their store during the late 1800s. This photo was taken before the advent of electricity, as light was provided by gas lamps. After working some years for the Getz brothers, A.M. Aiken started his mercantile store and did a booming business during the Lower Lakes heyday between 1870 and 1900. Here we see A.M. Aiken's inside his store. Evidently, there was a large demand for water buckets. The poster in the upper left of the photo says, "Take Uncle Sam's advice. Choose Union Leader Cut Plug." Tobacco. Once again, gas lamps provided lighting. In 1883, George Ray, an Englishman, bought 5,000 acres just south of Lower Lake and built this stone winery, which had a capacity of over 20,000 gallons of wine. The photo shows casks of wine being loaded for shipment to the Greystone Winery in St. Helena, Napa County. The Lower Lake Methodist Church was built in 1884 and is still in use today. On November 5, 1926, Bertie Moore, a teacher at the Lower Lake Grammar School, married George Richmond in the Lower Lake Methodist Church. Included in this photograph are children in Miss Moore's class. One of these original church pews is on display at the museum in Lower Lake. Frank Noel and his wife, Minnie, are in front of their home at the corner of Lake and 2nd Streets. The house, built by George Washington Wayne in 1875, is a Lower Lake landmark. The new Lower Lake Post Office, built in 1938. This is the Purity Market on Main Street about 1935. Note that bacon was 23 cents a pound, and bananas, even though perishable and imported from Central America, were 4 pounds for 20 cents. This Oddfellows Hall was built in 1868 by Leslie Phineas Nichols. It is the oldest building still standing in Lower Lake and is currently owned by Pioneer Realty. This pre-1906 photograph was taken from the hill just west of Lower Lake, today known as Lee Bar Road. The Lower Lake Catholic Church is on the left, and in the middle right distance is the Nichols Schoolhouse with its 70s bell tower. The young women have evidently come up the hill to pose for the photographer. Here again, the Nichols Schoolhouse with students and teachers in 1902. The earthquake of April 1906 damaged the bell tower, and the building and bonds were posted in the fall of that year to pay for repairs. At that time, the bell tower was removed. The bricks were covered with a thick coat of stucco, and the roof was changed from a straight French design to a curved mansard. This photograph shows the school shortly after the 1906 repairs were made. It remained a school until 1935. The Masons occupied the building after that for some years, then traded it to the county for property on Highway 53. The Grange held meetings here for some years. The restoration of the building was completed in 1994, and the bell tower was restored to its original glory in 2007. Cache Creek was a formidable barrier to travel in the early days. The creek was impassable during high water. Temporary bridges were put up during the summer months. This bridge, built in 1909, was the first permanent bridge over Cache Creek. This photograph shows the Cache Creek Dam under construction in 1914. It did not raise the level of Clear Lake. It slowed the drainage during the spring and summer months to provide irrigation water to Yolo County. The dam has 13 gates, which can release up to 21,000 cubic feet of water per second. However, the channel upstream cannot pass that much water during periods of heavy rainfall, and so Clear Lake occasionally floods into low-lying areas even when the dam is fully opened. Travel between Lower Lake and Kelseyville was hampered in the winter months by ponding in Manning Flat. Sometime prior to 1900, Bedford Manning began a tunnel to drain the flat with the hope of farming. The poor soil would not grow crops, however, so Manning sold out to Jack Lewis, who finished the tunnel. About 1915, the tunnel collapsed, which started a chain reaction of erosion so intense that the gully is now known as Lake County's Grand Canyon. A valley oak known as El Roble Grande, and said to be the largest oak tree in California, grew 4 miles south of Lower Lake. It stood for over 350 years and had a diameter of over 9 feet. It met its demise in December 1952 when it fell down in a windstorm. A slab of the tree is at the Lower Lake Museum. Sigler Springs was the closest resort to Lower Lake and was popular with travelers and locals alike. There were more than 20 springs, yielding approximately 3,000 gallons per hour. The water contained soda, magnesia, iron, and arsenic, and ranged from 50 to 156 degrees Fahrenheit. T.A.K. Mitchell arrived in Lake County in 1873 and began his blacksmithing and wagon-making shop about 1877. This photo illustrates dress and street conditions of those early days. This saloon was nicknamed the Bucket of Blood Saloon. From this rare interior photograph, we really can't tell which saloon this was, as during the 1880s, Lower Lake was known for having up to 8 saloons operating at the same time. The Eureka Hotel was built in 1871 and was for a while the only hotel in Lower Lake. This photograph was taken before the introduction of electricity. The Lemon family, proprietors of the Eureka Hotel, are having a meal in their restaurant. Lavina Noel was editor and publisher of the Lower Lake Bulletin, the oldest newspaper in Lake County, which was established in 1869. This photo was taken about 1910. We have 5 families represented in this picture: Akins, Turner, Jago, Millsap, and Shaw. And of course there's Chip the dog. They are heading off to the beach, perhaps Austin's resort. The Akins family owned Akins General Merchandising, the main general store in Lower Lake. This photograph was taken about 1920. The stagecoach was the primary mode of transportation. Travelers taking the stage from Calistoga to Lower Lake and wanting to proceed to Lakeport or Bartlett Springs often transferred to a steamer at the Lower Lake landing. Here we have the Kugelman family out for a Sunday ride. Note the lantern used for night riding. The Henry Enderlin family of Lower Lake had a variety of goat carts, pulled by 1, 2, or even 4 goats. One such cart won first prize in a 1916 Lower Lake parade. This photograph of a family friend, Earl Levy, in 1897, is looking west toward downtown Lower Lake from near Mill Street. Here are the classmates of the Lower Lake Grammar School in 1898. Albert Morrell was their teacher. This is the Lower Lake Boys Band. Music bands of all types were popular around the turn of the 20th century. Nearly every social event included live music, often performed by school-aged children. Music was an important part of every school curriculum, and many families owned pianos for evening entertainment. The girls' mandolin band gave concerts to raise money for a field trip to Sacramento. This photo from 1920 was taken on the Lower Lake Grammar School grounds. Like music, sports were also encouraged as a healthy endeavor for all students. Pictured is the Lower Lake High School girls basketball team. Note the uniform of their day, complete with kerchiefs, neckties, and hair ribbons. Baseball has been America's pastime since at least the 1870s. Early games were played in open fields amongst friends, but soon local rivalries formed between small towns. Pictured here is the Lower Lake baseball team, and while the date is unknown, the early setting is evident in the small-billed hats and thin mitts. Pitching during the vintage years consisted of an underhand throw, like today's softball games. In 1930, the Lower Lake Grammar School class performed a Johnny Appleseed pageant. Bertie Moore was the teacher. Lower Lake resident Maxine Glimmy remembers having to hold up her wings for this picture. Snow that sticks to the ground is a rare event